Friday, Madfinger Games had a public roundtable in the Discord, and there was over 1,300 people in there. That is the most people I've ever seen in a Discord call at once. So we're going to jump right into it because there was a lot of information that was given, and I want to be the one to give it to you. Quick updates. I was one of the creators who was able to participate in the week-long playtest Madfinger Games hosted, and I'm currently working on a couple of videos for that, including my impressions and feedback, and also one focused on the gameplay. But let's get back to why you're really here. To start, let's get with the biggest announcement, the release date. We have a release date for release date. They're going to officially announce the release date for the early access on Monday, April 29th. They even have a YouTube video that's going to go up. I will link it down in the description for you. That way you can pin it, tag it, notify yourself. It's going to be awesome. I have a feeling it won't be long for the release date after the announcement. I'm guessing the next day to a month out. You know how they like surprises. But we will see, and I'll make a post or a community announcement when we know more. The second big announcement they released during the Discord call is pricing and additions. So let's go over those. The standard edition is going to be $35 and will include a locker size that is 10 by 25 and a secure lockbox that is 2x2 for your butt container. Now, this is the one that we had when we were doing the playtest, and for me, there wasn't too much of an issue with inventory space. But also, I'm someone who can't keep his gear for long enough to actually stack up, so your mileage may vary. You'll also have $10,000 starting cash. The starting price for this game is an absolute steal for anyone who's wanting to get into Grayzone and try it for themselves. For what they offer, you will get your money's worth within the first wipe, and if you like tactical shooters, questing, and exploring, this is no better way to spend $35. The next edition is the Tactical Edition, which comes in at $57. They will have a 10 by 35 locker size and a 2x2 secure loot box, same as the last edition, and they will have $15K starting cash. The next higher tier is going to be the Elite Edition, which is going to cost $75. We'll have a 10 by 45 locker size and a 3x2 secure lockbox and $20K starting cash. Then for the grand finale, we have the Supporter Edition, which will be a small fee of $100. This will come with a 10 by 60 locker size and a 3x3 container, as well as $25K starting cash. Currently, you can update the secure lockbox, which is going to be your butt pocket, by completing quests. So even the standard edition will get the bigger box. The one that I know that it can be obtained right now is the 3x2 secure box, which was founded by Gingy, I hope I'm saying that right, who was one of the first ones to complete it and get the bigger box, which is the same size as the Elite Edition comes with. So even for standard editions, you are able to obtain the bigger box. The locker sizes, however, currently can't be upgraded, but looking at this tweet right here, you can see that they are wanting to add that later. The editions will start off with different equipment, with each higher tier having the previous tier's gear. There will also be an upgrade path for the edition, so you can upgrade your edition at a later time if you want. In my opinion, the upgrades are good, but not something you should feel forced that you need to do. I will personally be getting the $100 one because I truly believe in what Madfinger Games is doing and just the open communication that they have. Also, if you look at this tweet right here, you can just see how open and communicative they are about their studio's function. In the tweet, Mara is talking about how things are expensive, especially for multiplayer games, and they need our support, and we can build this side by side with them, and I'm willing to do that. But that's going to be a choice that you need to make for your own. Like I said, the $35 entry price is a steal for anybody to start getting into this game, and so I suggest everyone start at that price. So with the two big announcements out of the way, let's get into the questions and answers. Mara started off the Q&A by stating they're very happy and excited about the week-long playtest they had, and they got a lot of information and feedback about the bugs and other issues that they were able to find and work on fixes for before the early access release. They stated that for the early access, there will be big updates every 6 months, which include wipes along with the big updates. They also said once they go into early access, they want to prioritize stability hotfixes before working on the next big patch update. The first big update after early access will be the day and night cycle, plus mechanics for that like the lights and power that we've seen teased before. And this will also include AI changes for nighttime. There will also be sneaky features that may not be found in the patch notes for updates as well. Mara also talks about the guns and how they're looking at some changes like animations when reloading and sprinting. I know he talked about wanting you to drop the mag if you have to sprint mid-reload, which I think would be a cool idea and a nice alternative. And he also talked about LZ camping. They had shooting from the helicopters before, but they didn't like some of the clipping issues that they were having. But now they're going to activate that back again so that people are able to clear an LZ as they come in. This includes being able to throw smoke grenades from the chopper as well. So let's start with some things I can categorize. The FOB updates. So they are going to be updating the base defenses to make it harder to raid, but still keep it possible. During the playtest, some of the content creators were actually able to infiltrate enemy FOBs and looked pretty fun. I didn't have any friends to play with, so all I did was my task and look from the sidelines. But they were able to get in pretty easily with the AI not really putting up much of a fight. So those should be getting more difficult and they'll be more fun. Real world quests. This is something they want to implement and is currently in the design, but it will come at a later time. The reason it's in the fob updates is because they want to have a quest activate for you to defend your fob if it starts to be taken over by enemies. This will include some sort of PvP activities, of course. The guards at your fob, they're going to prohibit you from looting the same faction guards so people don't TK them and take and sell their gear, which honestly, that never crossed my mind to do, but I'm pretty sure some people did it. Now, personal lockers and hideouts in the fob. There will eventually be your own personal space that they aren't sure if it will be on the world map or not, because if it's on the world map and you're in your hideout, then you are just taking up a slot while not interacting with the rest of the game. So this may be a separate instance, sort of like Tarkov in that way. Stash sorting. Stash sorting? Stash sorting. Oh god, stash sorting. Stash sorting is there, but currently there isn't a button for it. They do plan to add stash sorting though. This sort of has to deal with the fob, but not quite. But they want to add squad leader radios so that you can contact the faction squads if you are in need of help, or another squad may need help. They can get on the squad radio and radio everybody and say, hey, come help us out in this location. And last but not least, pets in the fob. Here they made a joke about in-app purchases, of course, since they're previously mobile developers. They say there's a lot more important work, which of course there is, to be doing before thinking about pets, but it's definitely something they could do later on. So the tanky AI we were having issues with during the playtest. Now, technically they weren't being tanky in quotes, as per the usual as we think of tanky, as Grayzone Warfare doesn't use a health point system. But what was occurring was that the cavities from the rounds were not being correctly simulated. They found a few of the bugs and they have put a fix in. I noticed on the last day, they updated some of the fixes, and for me, it seemed like the issue was pretty much solved, although I think some other creators may have been having issues on that last day as well. But for the most part, I noticed there was a significant difference from the first few days to the last day. AI morale. They want the AI to have a confidence system. Now, this can be reduced by shooting bullets around them. This won't necessarily allow you to suppress them or make them flee, but they want to give the AI a reason for their choices, such as going for cover, crouching, different things like that. And speaking of crouching, let's go to AI movement. In the next patch, they're going to be adding AI crouching and wall vaulting, which is going to be insanely scary because I'm not prepared for an AI to jump over a wall. I think he said next patch, but I don't know if that means for the early access release or for the big update afterwards. And while we're talking about AI movement, let's talk about the AI cover. Currently, the AI does not know what cover is, and the reason for that is it's difficult to create a cover system for a 42 square kilometer map. But they are working on the best way to implement this. The issues come with having to distribute the CPU power of the server for over 1,000 NPCs and how to give their AI the world information for them to make the choices on what's covered and what's not. So at the early access launch, AI will still be dumb, quotes, but they will get smarter as the game goes on. Something I think would be cool to add is just random patrols. They don't even have to actually move anywhere. Just put some random NPCs on the road. That'll make some of the traveling a little monotonous that some people were having issues with. But again, that's going to be for my feedback videos. So on to the next. Now, here's the questions that didn't really fit into a category and were just kind of like one-offs. Somebody asked about the economy. Currently, people were getting way too much money for quests, and he is right, because I was able to easily get over 100 grand within a couple of within a few missions. So they're going to rebalance the questing rewards, which is completely fine. Next, somebody had asked about faction changing. Now, this was a bit contentious, as some people were picking factions that their buddies were on, and then they couldn't play with those buddies anymore. So they're going to work on it, and hopefully for the first update, they will be adding the changes to allow you to change your faction in the middle of a season. Update season. I don't even know what they're going to call it. But there will be limitations so that you can't just change willy-nilly, like maybe once a day. They aren't sure. They'll talk to us more about it when it gets closer to releasing for that portion. The weapon modding UI. So we've seen a few snippets of this, but it wasn't in the early access. They have the mocap in the UI already, of course, but they just weren't able to implement it in time for the test. So they're hoping to add this with the early access release. Friend and foe identification. So there were some creators that were having issues figuring out who is friend and foe, even though they're creators who play Tarkov, but they're upset at Grayzone for some reason. I don't know. Anyways, again, that'll be for my feedback and impressions. So currently there is no vision to have a HUD element to show the friend and foe, which is how it should be in my opinion. And they basically said you need to slow down, verify your target before you start shooting. They don't want this to be like Call of Duty where you just start going and shooting. They want you to slow down and be tactical about it. Someone then asked, will there be different special enemies like Dozer? I don't know who this is referring to, but they only want their bosses to be like high-ranking soldiers or maybe stronger in certain ways and having unique weapons they can collect. They don't want their bosses to have special abilities or just be random bulletsmen. Another question, sort of with the economy, but they asked, will there be better looting? Currently, the only loot to be found is usable loot. Basically, items that you have to use for your your PMC. They're going to be adding loot that is value only for selling. It may not be in the first state, but it is something that they're going to be adding. Someone then asked the very important question: can you call in an A-10 airstrike? The answer was no. PMCs can't afford that. All right. What a question. Next, this was my question I actually had asked. Body dragging. We noticed it wasn't in the playtest, but they've talked about it and we've seen a couple of instances of it. They said they didn't like the way that it was looking when they were doing it, so it wasn't able to be in the playtest, but it will be in the first update. And I'm assuming that's probably either the big update or the release of early access. I'm not sure. Another question asks if there will be more wildlife AI that we have to deal with. They made a joke about the flies, frogs, and mosquitoes. I feel like this may eventually be one of those sneaky updates where they add some fun without telling us, and then maybe a jaguar just attacks us from the forest. They also talked about helping to reduce camping by increasing the volume of insect sounds and stuff if you're in a location for too long. So that way those bush wookies will have to deal with the flies flying around them. Then someone asked about terrain effects. Terrain will change as early access continues. Like, don't forget that we're going to be getting like different biomes as well as new locations as early access continues. The map we have now for the playtest and for the early access is not going to be like the final map. They also want to add some sort of terrain effects to maybe affect your speed and stuff like that. Will there be GPS and rangefinders? These are definitely planned for the future, and anything we can imagine a PMC to use will likely be added eventually as well. Speaking of adding items, someone asked about more guns. Currently, there will be 8 with the over 400 attachments, but there is 50 plus guns planned, and even special unique weapons or combos from bosses that will drop. So you can either collect those or use them. Someone asked about a flea market. There will not be a flea market or black market. They feel it will basically change the game to be more about the money, and that's not what they want in their vision currently. You can, of course, absolutely still trade stuff with people in your servers. You could even sell stuff with people in your server. Just throw your stuff on the ground. Say, hey, give me 10K. Here's the gun. Throw both of them on the ground. There you go. But they just don't want it to be a globally accessed deal. Someone asked about the rogue factions. They originally thought of adding a rogue faction for people who would team kill too much, but if they add with that being a prerequisite that you would have to team kill, you would just have people team killing straight from the start, and we're already gonna have assholes who are gonna team kill for no reason. We don't need to give them a reason to team kill. They still want to do it so that it will force you to have limited access to vendors and put bounties on your head for people to go hunt you down, but they haven't figured out a way to implement this yet. One cool idea I had is having like a good choice, bad choice in the quest. That'd be pretty cool. PvE events. This kind of goes with the real world events from before. They want to add PvE and PvP dynamic events. Those won't be on the first update, but they're definitely planned. Will the PvE and PvEVP servers share progression? Yes, they will. So anything you do in the PvE server, you can bring to the PvEVP server. They're going to test it with the first release and see if people are able to exploit and break it. But in their view, since it's mostly PvE for both anyway, they don't think this will be an issue. And I'm kind of in the same boat, honestly. People who have PvE and bring something into the PvEVP will be at a disadvantage of just not having that PvP experience. I think people will see that people will act way differently on PvE servers versus PvEVP servers. In PvE servers, you can kind of go willy-nilly about things. Once you jump into the PvEVP server, you need to start scanning the horizon more for anything that may be out of place. Hidden POIs, there's a lot of stuff on the map like things from the real Laos, but currently these are just to see and they don't really have anything unique about them. But they will be adding a special loot or more valuable loot to these certain areas for you to actually go out and explore these areas and have a reason to. Infection to sickness. They want to add in certain places where there will be a chance for you to have an infection for the jungle because of course it's pretty hazardous. Something to where you could just take pills or something they don't want it to be too difficult, but they would like to add some hazards that way. Capturing camps. This wasn't in the QA. Well, this wasn't the QA, but it was clarified later in a tweet here. Capturing camps will eventually be added into early access. Capturing them means that you can have another place to spawn, more stash, and likely find other player factions fighting for that position. You will need to maintain control of the camp or you will lose it, which sounds pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
They want to keep the option for in-app purchases open, but only want to do it for charity reasons such as supporting war orphans and those in need. Only cosmetic items would be available, and all proceeds would directly go to that charity. So that was all the Q&A and all the major announcements that they had. At the end, Mara added something pretty wholesome to me. He wanted to stress 2 big points, and this is something everyone should hear. He said, because of you and so many people wishlisted us, we're getting attention from big guys in Steam, and they are working with us. Thank you guys is something we could never imagine. And he says, thank you guys again. I am sure it will not be without the problems, but we will do our best to fix them and help you so that you can enjoy the game. Again, these developers, you can tell they're putting their heart truly into this project. And I can't wait to see where it goes and be a part of it. And I hope that you guys watching are a part of it too. If you see me in game, if we're in the same server, come up to me. Let's go do some quests together. Let's go, I don't know, die together because you thought I could protect you and I'm bad, so who knows? I'm excited. I hope you're excited. And again, you don't have to buy it now. You can wait. You can wait till it gets further along in development if you want to. That's perfectly fine. And you can even have feedback if you want to. Like I said, that $35 entry fee is such a steal. I truly believe it is. Most Call of Duty games are, what, $80, $100 now? And you're really only getting it for the multiplayer, right? Well, this one's only $35, so let's see where it goes, okay? With all that said, I hope you have a fantastic evening, morning, day, whatever time it may be. And if no one's told you yet today, you matter, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.